Hello and welcome to Eye on Africa on France 24. I'm Fraser Jackson. Here are the stories that are making headlines across the continent tonight. William Ruto spent his first day in charge of Kenya over a month after his election victory. The new president is putting a focus on climate policies and reversing some of his predecessor's actions. In Burkina Faso, the director of a mining company has been found guilty of manslaughter and handed a suspended sentence. It comes 5 months after 8 people were killed when a mine they were working in flooded. And with fish stocks dwindling, local fishermen are adapting traditional techniques and diversifying in order to make a living in northeastern DR Congo. But we begin in Kenya, where just one day after he was sworn in as Kenya's 5th president, William Ruto has put climate policies at the heart of his itinerary and rolled back some policies put in place by his predecessor, Uhuru Kenyatta. Subsidies on food and fuel were set to be scrapped, with Ruto dubbing them costly and ineffective, along with several other items. Well, for more on this, let's cross live to Nairobi, where our correspondent Vivian Wandera is standing by. Vivian, thank you for joining us. These policies were part of Ruto's manifesto, so they won't come as any great shock to anybody. But what else has he done on his first day in office?
Well, after his swearing in that took place on Tuesday at the Moi International Sports Center, Kasarani, Ruto, during his first day in office as Kenya's 5th president, has sworn in 6 judges, 4 of them to Kenya's Court of Appeal and 2 of them to Kenya's Environmental Court. And these judges were judges that were actually left out by the former president Uhuru Kenyatta when he swore in judges in 2021, and even went ahead to ignore a court order in October of 2021 directing him to swear in the 6 judges. He had refused to swear in, citing that they have integrity issues. But also another issue that came up today during Ruto's first day in office was the diplomatic issue between Morocco, Kenya, and Sahrawi in the Western Sahara. Remember, Kenya recognized Sahrawi as an independent state back in 2005 during the late President Mwai Kibaki's tenure in office. But today, Ruto, through his Twitter account, said that Kenya has decided to end all ties with Sahrawi and also end their presence in the country after a meeting with Morocco's foreign affairs minister. And this move comes after the president of Sahrawi attended Ruto's inauguration yesterday, which was also attended by representatives from Morocco. And it has led to many people asking the question of what is going to happen next and why exactly is Morocco so important to Kenya at this moment. Remember, Kenya's national carrier, that is Kenya Airways, uses the flights through Morocco to New York through their direct flights from Nairobi to New York, which could be one of the reasons that Ruto is looking to keep very good diplomatic ties with Morocco.
And Vivian, Ruto has made sure that climate policies are at the heart of everything that he's been promoting over the last few weeks and indeed the last few months. Why is it so important? He says he wants the country to be a leader among African nations when it comes to climate change.
This is important to the president and also to the people of Kenya because Kenya in Africa is among one of the countries that has really been facing the effects of climate change. Remember that there have been complaints that Africa is suffering from the problems they didn't even create when it comes to climate change. And also there have been calls for the reduction of cutting down of trees, which led to a ban on logging a few years earlier by the former president Uhuru Kenyatta. But also there were calls for when there was supposed to be a coal plant set up in Lamu, Kenya, in the coastal part of Kenya, where people went to court to stop this from happening, saying that this is harmful to the environment. But also the country has seen a very prolonged drought period, where this is the 5th rainy season that we have this in the country, which has really affected the production of basic food crops like maize and things like rice in the country, which the government had decided to look into other ways of helping farmers to continue to be able to double their yields during the year so that they can combat the effects of the drought. But also this is important to Ruto because as a new president, he needs to set the pace and fulfill the promises that he made to people with things that like food production and increasing local food production and also reducing the prices of food. Majority of the things that we buy in Kenya have doubled. The prices of these things have doubled over the years because most of the food is now imported rather than being produced locally, which has become a burden to many people.
Vivian, thank you for that update. Vivian Wandera joining us there live from Nairobi. Next, the director of a mine in Burkina Faso has been found guilty of manslaughter after 8 miners were killed by flooding in April. A fine of $3,000 and a 2-year suspended sentence was given to Hein Frey, who works for Canadian mining company Trevali. But the sentence is being seen as lenient by many in the country, which was outraged by the disaster just 5 months ago. Our regional correspondent Sophie Lemont has more from Ivory Coast.
8 grieving families have been waiting for almost 5 months for this verdict, and it's finally been announced this Wednesday. The director of the company operating the Percoa mine, his name is Hein Frey, he was found guilty of involuntary manslaughter, endangering the life of others and failing to assist a person in danger. He was given a 2-year suspended prison sentence and a 2 million CFA franc fine. That's equivalent to about €3,000. We spoke to the family representative who say this verdict is below what they were expecting, but they do realize the significance of it. It's one of the first times a big company has been indicted following a mining incident in Burkina Faso, and for the families, that's a great tribute to their memory. The families also saluted the government's search efforts and the relentless work that went into finding the bodies of these 8 miners that went missing in this tragic incident. They say that finding the bodies, which isn't really so common in mining incidents, was central to their healing process. We also heard from the accused lawyers who said they will soon enter into negotiations with the families to support them financially after the loss of their loved ones. And overall, the families are calling for stricter regulations in the Percoa mine, as well as mines all over Burkina Faso. And they hope this incident can serve as a wake-up call for the working conditions of miners across the country.
Rebels in Ethiopia's northern Tigray region have accused government forces of carrying out fresh drone strikes in a residential area of the regional capital. That claim was seemingly backed up by doctors at a local hospital who said 10 people were killed, with the hospital struggling to save the wounded due to supply shortages. The government and the Tigray People's Liberation Front have been fighting for almost 2 years. The conflict has killed thousands of civilians, uprooted millions, and caused a humanitarian crisis in the impoverished region. Now, as a byproduct of the war in Ukraine, the cost of fertilizer has continued to increase. The price rise has forced farmers in Uganda to search elsewhere to help their crops, and they found an eco-friendly alternative in the larvae of the black soldier fly. Take a look.
The sight of these larvae might not be for everyone, but 30-year-old Skovia Namataka does not mind the wiggling maggots. She feeds them natural waste like mango and jackfruit leftovers. In return, they help her garden and her household income.
I get the 5 days larvae. I put them in my drums. They spend there for only 2 weeks. They come and take the mature larvae, and they give me some little money from it. I remain with my natural manure.
These money-making maggots come from Marula Protein Hub, some 70 kilometers from Kampala, where teams rear the black soldier fly and distribute the larvae to farmers. Clean, eco-friendly and easy to keep, all they need is a warm environment, some water and a place to lay eggs. Once the larvae are 5 days old, they are sold to farmers who keep them for a fortnight and get fertilizer from the frass. With fertilizer prices more than doubling in the region in the past year, it's a greener and cheaper alternative for local farmers.
The war in Russia and Ukraine made the other chemical fertilizers which were imported so expensive that the prices had hiked up. We couldn't manage buying those chemical fertilizers. And secondly, they're harmful to the soils.
Peter Wakisi is a network technician and a smallhold farmer. He made the change to natural fertilizers 5 months ago. Today, he uses the money he saved for his piggery project. As for the larvae, the hub buys the mature maggots back from the farmers like Peter for double the selling price.
We transport the young larvae back to the production hub, but as it sits at the production hub, we have a set of clients that are interested in it. Reason being, it's a source of protein for animal feeds. So you find that people that are dealing in piggery, fish farming, and also poultry use it to enhance the protein levels of their feed.
The Marula Protein Hub started the program 18 months ago. Today, it employs over 100 people and helps more than 1,200 farmers. The project hopes to tackle high unemployment among young Ugandans in the long run and increase food production in a country where over 70% of the population still work in agriculture.
In northeastern DR Congo, for generations, the Wengenya community have been using wooden scaffolds and baskets to capture fish. But with overfishing devastating stocks in recent years, they're hoping improvements in infrastructure will bring much-needed tourism to the area. Caroline Lambolet reports.
Perched precariously on wooden scaffolding, these fishermen are trying to keep this ancient practice alive, using wicker baskets to catch tilapia or a Nile perch. But faced with overfishing, they mostly count on this lost art to draw tourists, not fish.
Our works of art give value to the city of Kisangani. People should visit the Wengenya Falls. They're a symbol of the city. We have to embrace this art, which is recognized throughout the world.
The pandemic dealt a blow to these fishermen, who already suffered from the dire state of tourism infrastructure in the area, with roads so poor they can't be driven on.
To receive our visitors, the conditions are not really adequate. People may want to spend some time at the falls to rest or for a vacation. But there are no hotels, there are no restaurants, there isn't much of anything.
Still, the local authorities are upbeat about the site's potential. And earlier this year, the country's environment minister paid a visit to the area, promising investments to attract visitors.
The project aims to modernize the sites of the Wengenya Falls. A hotel will be built and we will try to modernize the fishery. But our battle will be to develop basic infrastructure so that we can have roads that will allow tourists to travel freely.
The fishermen also say they need assistance from the government to build and maintain the elaborate scaffolding, assistance they stopped receiving around 15 years ago.
Well, that's it for this edition. Stay tuned to France 24.
Every 4 years, the celebration of the Olympic Games is an opportunity to call a truce in international conflicts. But in 1972, during the Munich Games, 8 Palestinian terrorists from the Black September movement took 11 members of the Israeli delegation hostage. To secure their release, they demanded the release of all Palestinian prisoners in Israel and a plane to make their escape. At the airport, German police attempted a rescue operation. It was a fiasco. All the hostages were shot, along with some of the terrorists. Only today, 50 years later, are the families of the victims obtaining compensation and an apology from the German government. Munich 1972 Revisited on France 24 and France24.com.